Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome to another developer Q&A video for EVE Echoes. Each week the developers take a series of questions posed by you, the community, they answer those questions and then post them to the official EVE Echoes Twitter page, Facebook account and somewhere deep in the recesses of the game as well. Each week I go over these questions and the answers, adding my own personal thoughts and opinions alongside knowledge I have from previous developer Q&As, the Discord developer AMAs, and just general chats with the developers on a near daily basis at this point. Hopefully this should give you some insight into the direction the game is heading in and answer some questions regarding game design and things like that. Now if you do enjoy these videos then of course there is a playlist of these you can check through. My DMs are always open if you have questions, you can ask in the description down below, and if you come find the Catskull Discord linked in the description of this video, you can ask in there as well. There's a bunch of friendly folk there who love to chat all things EVE Echoes. Now remember, if you are posting in my Discord, if you are responding on YouTube, you are in with a chance of winning a month of Combo Omega. Every week I give 3 lucky people a month of Combo Omega each, and you just basically have to post on YouTube or in my Discord to be in with a chance of winning. Now if you have a question for the developers, same as usual, there is a link in the description of this video. You can click through on that to a Google document where you can ask your question. If yours is one that is chosen to be answered, not only do you get an answer, you get featured in one of my videos and you'll win a month of Basic Omega as well. Anyway, without further ado then, let's jump straight into this week's developer Q&A, which is for the week of the 28th of June through to the 4th of July. And there are 4 questions this week. Huzzah, we're back to 4. Question number 1. Nihilus space is predominantly overrun with compressed mining sites. Is this the design intent of the development team to have so many everywhere? Most explorers don't mine at all, and it's becoming a waste of our gameplay time to only find compressed sites, especially since we have no exploratory options for mining ventures or barges to speak of. Getting miners to leave the safety of sovereignty is an impossible task. These sites sit all week long, which prevents possible new spawns from spawning. There's nothing in these sites worthwhile for an explorer. Could we get more combat end space sites instead? Tech 1 to Tech 10 in nullsec. At least the Rattus will travel. Thank you. Now before we have a look at the answer to this one, I want to actually chime in on this because exploration is what I do a lot of in EVE Echoes, and I do agree, you see a lot of compressed mining sites. Now it's not to say that nobody does these, just often the lower tech ones are not worth the time and effort to run them. Ultimately, I think if the Venture 4 was like a covert ops ship and had the ability to scan down these sites, so if the Venture 4 had scanning bonuses alongside covert ops functionality, we would see more people doing this. In EVE Online recently, I've actually been journeying around in a Venture, scanning down sites and going gas huffing and things like that. It's a playstyle that I had never even intended to try, yet because of the new Air Career program, I gave it a go and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'd love to do that in EVE Echoes, jump out in a Venture 4, go exploring, and see what I can find in regards to compressed sites. To me, I think it's not so much a problem that the sites exist, it's a problem that just nobody does them, so they don't despawn. As far as I'm aware, they're on different timers to all the other stuff out there, so they don't prevent anything spawning, it's just you have to scan and go through all of the rigmarole, only to find that it's another compressed site. Give us a reason to do these. Basically, I think the reason's there, but we just don't really have a good enough ship for it. Make the Venture 3 and Venture 4 have bonuses to scanning and covert ops, and suddenly I think you've got a real reason to go in and do those, and possibly tweak some of the ores in them as well. Anyway, that's my opinion. Let's have a look at the answer, which is from Cloud. Nihilus Condensed, Asteroid Belt and Nihilus Dead Space use separate spawn caps, which was what I thought, which means that the former does not affect the spawn of the latter. There are currently no plans to increase the spawn rate of Nihilus Dead Space. This is sadly a typical Cloud answer at this point. I get that they're, hard at work on the August update, but a little bit more information here would be really, really lovely. Like, simply put, yeah, okay, there's no plan to increase the spawn rate of Nihilus Dead Space. I don't think there needs to be. I think that there's plenty of those out there. I also don't think that Nihilus Condensed Space needs to be reduced in its spawn rate. We just need an actual reason to do them. Giving us a ship that is designed for that is one way of enticing players to do them and to actually clear them. Also, increasing some of the stuff inside it. I'm normally against increasing ore, by the way, you'll know. But I think increasing the reason to actually do them and giving us the proper tools with which to complete them would really help with this, and that's something I would be all for. Moving on to question number 2. Is there a plan to bring back old purple nanocores in boxes or Concord Pass, the ones before the Ascension core? So this is things like Clear Skies or Dark Halo. Thank you for your feedback, says Mike. We've received a lot of feedback about wanting the old nanocores back in the game. Recently, we've been thinking about the right way to bring back the old nanocores, but haven't quite thought it through yet, so there's no specific release plan for the time being. Now, this is a conversation I have had with the developers in the past. I was pleasantly surprised to find that one of the suggestions I had made directly to Cloud was that, yes, when we get a new Concord Pass, it should be a restricted number of new cores, maybe 4 or 8 new cores, and then bring back a load of the old ones, so that there's always something for people to go for, but we're not generating 20-odd new cores every single Concord Pass. And that's basically what they've done. We've had the Exile cores for both battle cruisers and for cruisers, and I think for interceptors. I can't honestly remember. I'm sure there's a third category in there for the Exile cores. And they brought back the Ascension cores, which I think is a really good way of doing it, and I think in future Concord passes they should continue that. Add a couple of new cores here and there, maybe give us, say, exploration cores to cover the Heron, the Probe, the Magnate, and the, which one am I missing? The Imicus, and the Astero and the Stratios. There's 6 cores that you can add to the game right away. Maybe even a Venture core to tie in with the previous question. What a Venture core that gives scanning bonuses would be amazing, and the possibility of fitting covert ops cloaks. Yeah, do it via Nanocore. I would be all for that if you won't fix the actual bloody ship. Give us like those exploration cores and then put in the Dark Halo nanocores or something really cool like that. To me, that's the way that we need to move forward. Add a sprinkling of new cores every Concord Pass, and then give players the opportunity to go back and buy some of the ones that they missed. Now, it's worth pointing out that FOMO, fear of missing out, is a big thing in sort of money-making in games. I'm not saying I agree with this, by the way, but as an example, back in my days of Command & Conquer Rivals, there were some skins, and there were some sort of like commander emotes, and these were released in waves. And after those waves finished, they've never brought them back. And loads of people were like, you know what, they were £15, so $15, £12, whatever, to buy these. If you just dumped them in the store, people would surely buy them. But the whole point was that fear of missing out meant that more people bought it the first time. I don't agree with that in a game, but I kind of see why developers do it. Again, I don't agree with it, and I genuinely think that we should have the opportunity to buy old cores. Not all of them, I'm not saying flood the Concord store with all of the Dark Halo, Clear Skies, Thermomagnetic Storm 2s and all of this. Just give us a wave at a time and a sprinkling of new cores. Anyway, with that said and done, move on to question number 3. When we generate lists, would it be possible for capital ships to also generate the minerals needed for all items in the list, possibly as a sublist? And Pixie responds, we're designing a new calculation function called Industrial Penetration, stop tittering in the back there, which can convert an item into its blueprint and the corresponding materials. It allows multiple penetrations, stop laughing. For example, if a list contains a carrier, upon first calculation it would be converted into a carrier blueprint and components. Upon second calculation it would be converted into a carrier blueprint and component blueprint and ore and planetary materials. That's actually really cool. I like this a lot. If you remember when we talked about lists, I showed a photo that an old friend of mine from back in England took of like the notes he was making regarding building tech to drones, and it was like an entire A4 page scribbled with all of these different things, like, oh, I need these parts, and these parts require all this to build, and those parts then require these things, so it's like an entire 2-page spread of information. So having the lists do that, I think with capitals that makes a lot of sense. That yes, you can just create a list and it'll be the blueprint plus the components. Then if you ask it to go a little bit deeper, stop laughing, then it would then change those components from just the raw components to be the blueprints and the materials required to build those components. That's a really cool way of simplifying and streamlining industry, and I'm all for that. I think that would be a really cool change. Any help for industrialists, I think, is always a good thing. This, I don't think it's a huge help. I think a lot of industrialists are quite comfortable using Excel or other, just pen and paper to figure this stuff out. But putting it in-game, it's a really nice quality of life change. I'm all for it. Moving on then to question number 4. I am enjoying the new industry update, sense the theme here, but would like more ways to use and sell ore. Can I get an amen? Could we have news missions that tacitly ask for specific ore so as to keep a balanced drain, and the delivery point will be the closest ITC? Higher the difficulty, the more ore they take. This way gives more use for missions and helps stabilise the ore market. Now, before reading Melos' response, I actually think there's an even better way of doing this. Set up NPC buy orders. Now, in EVE Online, if you're running Abyssal Dead Spaces, bear with me here, if you're running Abyssal Dead Spaces, one of the main pieces of loot that you will get from those are what are called Triglavian surveys, and they've got very little use to the standard player. If you dock up at a standard station, you can sell them pretty cheaply. Or, if you fly to specific Concord stations, you will find that there are NPC buy orders. When you sell at those places, you are fulfilling NPC buy orders. They are just created in the game, kind of like how we have trainers seeded on the market, but in reverse, if that makes sense. And the concept is, if you fly to those stations, you are guaranteed a certain price for your goods. That is what I think we need in EVE Echoes. I think that we should have certain buy orders set up at different ITCs, and I don't think every ITC should have all of them. I think there should be a reason to sell at various different ITCs here, but having something that says, oh, you know, here's how much we're going to pay you per piece of tritanium, 1 ISK per tritanium, and ultimately you set a lower price by doing this. Now, that price is probably going to be less than it is on the market. As just off the top of my head, these numbers don't make sense. Please don't crucify me in the comment section. If, for example, it's like, oh, 10 ISK per esogen is what you can get standardly on the current market, then the NPC buy order would be set at, say, 6 ISK per esogen. And you can sell these and have... By doing this, what you're actually creating is a lower bottom floor, which means those ores are never going to drop below that price. Because once the market starts saying, oh, well, we'll buy your esogen for 5, who's going to sell it at 5 ISK per rock, when you could go to an ITC and the NPC buy orders will sell it for 6 per rock? And that kind of then sets you that low value that you won't really go below. That helps stabilize the ore market. It's not the be-all end-all. People come at me when I talk about this stuff with industry of, oh, it would cause this problem, it doesn't solve that problem. I'm not saying this is the one thing that we should do to industry, then call it quits. It's part of a bigger set of fixes, alongside introducing proper ore sinks, like ammunition. This is a very important system for us now. We have too much ore floating around, and there is no way to just get rid of it. Having proper ore sinks in the game would help do this. And again, people are going to come at me and go, oh, that's because you need to fix insurance. I did an entire bloody video explaining how you don't need to fix insurance in inverted commas. Leave insurance the hell alone, fix industry. Stop trying to fix the symptom and get to the actual base problem. Yes, insurance made things worse. I don't deny that. I don't deny that insurance made the system worse for industrialists. My point is that all the changes that people suggest to insurance don't do a sodding thing to fix the underlying problems with industry. If you fix those problems with industry, however, it does fix insurance. So stop trying to fix insurance and thinking that's the answer. Fix industry, and then that will fix insurance alongside, fixing industry. Pick your target, go for the actual thing that's causing the problem, then you'll find, fix the underlying issues. This is like sitting there and, it's... Bandages for bullet wounds is the example I want to think of, but that's not quite the correct analogy. The simple point is, if you fix insurance, then industry is still broken. If you fix industry, then insurance also gets fixed. So fix industry. Make fixing industry the priority, not insurance. Anyway, what does Melos say? Currently, Encounters mission is the only way to exchange ore for ISK through trading with the system. The purpose of this part of the Encounters mission is to help capsuleers who are new to industry production to establish goals. So the system collects low-level ores, and the rewarding ISK is limited. We have not been considering increasing the conversion rate of ore to ISK through system trading. I don't think anyone should be considering increasing the conversion rate. I don't think anyone should, argue that these shouldn't be limited. I think it's a simple case of You just need something. We need something. In EVE Online, if I'm a miner and an industrialist, there are mining missions, and you go out to a site and you mine a special material, and then you hand it in, and those materials are freaking useless on the market. Like, it's a sort of a kernite-like substance, or an umber-like substance, and the description in the game is that ultimately it's useless, so you can't buy it and sell it and use it in production. It is a special form of material that is just for that mission, basically. And this gives miners something to do that's a guaranteed income, and it means you don't have to sell it on the market. I just don't think that's right for Echoes. I think Echoes at this point, we just need NPC buy orders to actually buy some of this ore and set a baseline price. By setting a baseline price of the ore, you stabilize the ore market and stop it plummeting below a certain level. That helps then improve the cost of and the stability of buy orders for ships and things like that, because remember, buy orders for ships are based on the value of the minerals, etc. So by setting a baseline for the minerals, you're also setting a baseline for the ships, because if you know that if you could sell all of the minerals that a ship requires for X amount of ISK to NPC buy orders, you know the ship then costs Y in oven fees. X plus Y is the base value of that ship, and of course it can go higher. It can go higher. If those ships are in demand, then people can sell them higher. If those ships are not in demand, then at least you know that there is a base price for the ore and the minerals. I don't know. A lot of people come at me every time I start talking about industry, but ultimately, again, these conversations are conversations that I have with industrials. We talk about these things, and the general consensus is that actually, with anyone who understands how basic economics and trade works, that is how you fix this kind of thing. It is by creating these kind of systems. And yes, you can then argue, oh, but my free market economics. Ronald Reagan was one of the worst things to happen to economics, because he taught people that economics was this really simple thing, and it isn't. It's a really completely backwards, counterintuitive system that isn't as easy to explain as people think. A lot of the stuff is counterintuitive. Like, you think that, oh, X, Y, and Z, and it's like, no, Z, Y, X. And you kind of have to come to terms with this, and I think industry is really susceptible to this. That one of the problems we have is that a lot of the fixes, when you write those fixes down, when someone like me talks about these fixes in a video, people get angry because that sounds like a bad thing. I get it, it sounds like a bad thing. I don't hate industry. I'm forever being accused of hating industry. I don't. It is my biggest want to get fixed in EVE Echoes. The trouble is that a lot of the stuff that is required to fix industry is an inconvenient truth for people who sort of dabble in it, enjoy it, and perhaps... If I'm being charitable, I think a lot of the industrialists who get angry with me are just in it because they want a nice simple AFK system and they don't really understand industry. I think a crazy, and something I'm going to get shouted at for saying, fact is that whilst people say, oh, industry is dying, there are a whole bunch of industrialists out there going, you know what, I'm still making absolute bank and having fun with it, because those people have figured out how the system actually works. So industry isn't broken, it's just unbalanced at the moment, and I think the problem is that you've kind of created this situation where the people who are the top dogs in their field are sitting at the top and having a great time of it, but it's impossible for anyone else to get involved. And yes, some of those people are complaining because essentially they're not engaging with the system as it happens. But then there are some people who are just like, I'm trying to, but I can't because I'm not competitive yet. There's the kind of, oh, wait until you're Tech 10 and have every single bloody skill trained, and suddenly things will work out for you. And that's not how it should be. This should be something that is scalable. Anyway, I'm in the realms of rambling right now. Those are my thoughts and opinions on this particular one. You might have your own thoughts and opinions. You might have some ideas of what you think would work for industry, about what you think would help fix Nihilus compressed space and stop it being so sort of all over the place. These are just my thoughts and opinions. I'd love to hear yours in the comment section down below. Otherwise, folks, happy sailing and see you in New Eden.